Have you ever come home from a vacation and realized you don't actually want your normal life back? Not because you hate your life and not because you're unhappy, but because somewhere during the trip, you got a glimpse of what life feels like when you're actually living according to what matters most. I had that realization on our Alaskan cruise. And it wasn't the mountains, it wasn't the glaciers, it wasn't even the whales I spent hours staring at the ocean hoping would appear. The realization was much bigger than that. I realized that the things I say important are I realized that the things that I say are important to me weren't even showing up in my daily life. And I think that's why so many moms feel burned out. Welcome back to Struggle and Strength Moms Balancing It All with Nikki. Today, we're talking about something that completely changed my perspective this summer. I think most moms assume burnout comes from doing too much, too many activities, too much work, too many responsibilities. But I don't think that's the whole story anymore. I think sometimes burnout happens because our values and our priorities stop matching. And when that happens, we can be busy every minute of the day and still feel unfulfilled. So before we left Alaska, I had this vision 9 days, 9 whole days, no soccer fields, no practices, no meetings. I thought, I'm finally going to get to read those books that have been sitting on my shelf that I've been dying to read for over 2 years. I'm finally going to work on that business idea, the one that I keep thinking about and dreaming about, but I just don't have any time to actually do anything about. And I'm finally going to get some thinking time, like real good thinking time, because what else am I going to do when we're cruising through the Alaskan Ocean, basically? It's not the Alaskan Ocean, but the Pacific Ocean near Alaska. And it's just on cruise days where there's nothing to do and the kids just want to be in the kids club. I had all these productive goals that I wanted to do because that's what I always do. I fill the space. I fill every second of every moment of my space. I maximize the opportunity. I make a plan, but then something funny happened. I didn't do any of it. None. And I had this terrible feeling like I wasn't being productive. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Instead, I sat on the balcony a lot, just staring at the ocean. I was waiting for whales that it was too early in the season to see, but I did see a couple spouts and I did see some sea otters, which were super cute as they were floating by. You know, but while I was sitting there, I thought to myself, I really have all these things I really want to be doing. And I just sat there staring, not doing them. Kind of like how your kids behave when you tell them, okay, we've got to leave in an hour and you need to do all these things. And they just sit there. And then when you're ready to go, you're like, you're still in your pajamas. You didn't get ready. Why didn't you do anything? That's the way I felt. I knew I had to get stuff done, but I didn't do it. And at first, I felt really guilty about it. Like, have you ever done that? You finally get downtime and then immediately start thinking about all the things you should be doing? That was me. I should be reading. I should be planning. I should be building. I should be creating. But every time that I sat down to work on something, I had my book next to me. I didn't want to do it. I didn't open the pages. I just wanted to sit there with my husband. I just wanted to talk to my kids or my mother-in-law. I wanted to explore. I wanted to be present. And that's when I started noticing something. For years, I've said that my family is my top priority. I've said health is important. I've said relationships matter. But if someone looked at my calendar, would they really know that? Because my calendar looked a lot like work, activities, errands, driving, obligations, over and over and over again. The other thing that was really different about this trip was how little planning I did. Normally, I'm like the research department, the travel agent, the event planner, the transportation coordinator, the budget analyst, the family logistics expert. And honestly, it's so exhausting. I didn't have time to do that. I think I mentioned before on one of the previous episodes that I didn't. This time I had my AI chief mom officer handle almost everything, and it was amazing. The rental cars, the attractions, the costs, the timings, the recommendations, all of it. For the first time in forever, I wasn't carrying all the mental load, and that was eye opening. I think that kind of caused my problem. I shouldn't say problem, but my realization that I literally just wanted to sit on my balcony and do nothing. Because I realized how much energy I was trying to spend controlling every little detail of our lives. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. So much so that I've stopped doing it the moment that I got on that cruise. Even until now, I find myself usually on the weekends, that's when I do all of my work. The nights, the weekends, because the kids are occupied, they can do whatever they want. My husband's home, and I spend all my time usually working on my businesses. But for the last month almost, I haven't been doing that. A little piece of me feels so guilty. But as my trip went on, something became really clear. The moments that I enjoyed the most weren't the expensive ones. They weren't the excursions. They weren't the attractions. They weren't even the things I spent hours researching. They were simple moments. Walking with my kids, talking with my husband, watching the scenery, laughing together, being present. Can I just tell you that we went to this amazing park in British Columbia, Victoria, British Columbia, and we were like 1 foot away from these beautiful peacocks. They were amazing. And I loved the opportunity that I got to be on my balcony and with my binoculars and see these little sea otters in the ocean. They were the cutest little things. And my son came over with his new fresh bought sea otter stuffy that he had to have in Sitka, Alaska, that he hasn't stopped carrying ever since. And it made me ask a hard question. If these are the moments that I value most, why aren't I creating more of them at home? Think about that. The memories that we're making at home are very few and far between, like these memories that we made on this trip. Because why? Because I'm a glorified Uber driver for my kids, taking them from one activity to the next. And then I spend the majority of my day in front of my computer screens working on my businesses and my full time job. And the little teeny tiny bits of time that I get to spend that aren't in front of the computer or in the car driving are so few and far between these days. When I got home, I started thinking about what I want this summer to look like. And I landed on these three values: family presence, Not just being in the room, but actually being there, mentally, emotionally, fully present. Because for years I was physically with my family, but my brain was always somewhere else, thinking about work, thinking about clients, thinking about the next thing. I don't want that anymore. Can I tell you, for the first time in probably over a year, I actually finished a movie with my kids without falling asleep because my brain was so overly exhausted that every moment that I had to spend with the kids while we were watching a movie, I fell asleep because my brain just shut down. The second core value is to use what we already have. Every summer, we chase new experiences, new places, new activities, new purchases. Meanwhile, we already have so much. We belong to this boat club, and last year we had to reduce our membership because we didn't use it. But this year, we've already gone out on the boat twice in 1 week. And I want to do that every week, just like we used to do. We have a pool in our backyard that barely ever got used the last several summers. This summer, we've already been in it every single night. We have games, board games, card games, all kinds of games, bikes, a backyard, and each other, most importantly. And I want to enjoy what we've already built. I want to stop going out. When the kids were little, yes, I took them to every imaginable event that was free on the weekends, and we were always going here, there, and everywhere, and it was so important for them to learn that. But this summer, I want them to learn about family, that we are their pack. Because face it, we're pack animals. We just wanna be with each other. And the last but not least is simplicity that creates peace, and this might be the biggest one. Less clutter. Less commitments, less rushing, less filling every available minute. Because I don't think peace is something that we find. I think peace is something that we create. And sometimes we create it by removing things. Before we went on this Alaskan trip, oh my goodness, we were doing everything under the sun. We had piano, drums, guitar, we had soccer practice, we had futsal, we had tennis, we had diving. We had so many things. Every single night was jam-packed full. And yes, we still want them to do their instruments. And yes, we still want them to do soccer and diving. But we don't have to add in the extra futsal. We don't have to add in the extra games on the weekends. Our weekends are completely free this summer, and I'm so excited. And the stuff in the house, I told the kids, look, you have so much stuff. Let's pretend we're moving to a new house, and we're only going to pack the things that we're going to use in the new house. So go through your rooms, go through your playroom, and take out all the things that you don't want anymore. And they're so excited because there's so much junk that we have where we find it and we're like, oh my gosh, where was this all my life? But we haven't used it in the past 5, 10 years. And I'm so sick of having these things that are just taking up space and then yelling at the kids, telling them, clean the house, clean your rooms, clean all this. And there's no place to put things because it's overloaded by junk we don't use. And I don't want to be rushing from place to place to place, filling every moment with things that we need to do. Because let's face it, that's not fun for anyone. And I think this is the part where burnout comes from. Not always from doing too much, sometimes from doing things that don't align with what matters most. Because if I say family matters, but I'm spending all my time working, then something feels off. And if I say health matters, but I'm never taking care of myself because I don't have the time, then something feels off. And if I say peace matters, but every moment is filled of every single day, then something feels off. And eventually that disconnect catches up with us. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. If someone looked at your calendar, would they know what your values are? Not what you say they are, what they actually are. Would they see family? Would they see health? Would they see faith? Would they see rest? Would they see joy? Because this summer, that's the question I'm asking myself. Not how can I do more or what new experiences do we need, but how can I make sure my priorities reflect what matters most? Because maybe burnout isn't always a sign that we're doing too much. Maybe sometimes it's a sign that we're spending too much time on things that don't matter enough. Think about your values. And I had a really good conversation with one of my clients this week. I've been all over the place trying to figure out what to do moving forward with my business, with life, with all of this. And she said to me, Nikki, I have a journal and I write down all of my core values and every decision that I make in my life, in my business, it all stems from my values. So you need to think about your values, write them down, and make sure every decision you do is based on your values. And once you do that, God will create anything that you desire. And that stuck with me because I have values, although I don't really even know what they are because I haven't been living them. And that's why when I sat down to do this episode, I really wanted to put together what those values were because I've been thinking about them ever since Alaska. And I've been doing them. I just didn't really know what they were since Alaska because I don't want the life I used to have. Now that I'm old, you know, oh my gosh, almost mid 40s. I can't believe I'm saying that. It seems like I will never leave my golden age of 24. Although my kids always remind me every birthday that I am not 24 anymore. In fact, my daughter's birthday card to me this year says, hold on, let me get it from my stack next to me because it's very funny what she wrote. Where is it? It says, I know that you say you are 24, but you are 44. What a sweet reminder from my 11-year-old daughter. And as I am now not 24 anymore and my priorities have shifted, family is the most important, followed by peace and using what we already have. Because as I mentioned before in my previous episodes recently, I want simplicity. I don't want to be racing here, there, and everywhere. I don't want to feel exhausted because my exhaustion now as a 44-year-old is completely different than it was as a 24-year-old. In fact, the first day we were on our cruise, the welcoming ceremony, I had a little too much to drink because I hadn't been drinking for the months going up to the trip. And the next day, I laid in bed almost the whole entire morning. And it was not a glorious moment for me, but it was very hard recovery. I'm very proud of myself, though. I didn't get sick, but I didn't feel like doing anything. And I think that was the start of all of this. I was on a cruise on a day that we were floating at the sea. And I just wanted to lay in bed and do nothing but take care of myself. And since January of 2025, I've had a goal to become healthier, to start taking care of myself. And I've done a piss poor job of doing that. Although I have made some improvements. Like I take all of these things that I didn't realize that I've been doing, but it's really helped out in my health and my hair and my emotional and hormonal balance of my life. If you're interested in any of those, please reach out. It's totally changed my life and also the way that I'm eating. I don't eat junk food anymore or things that are going to make me exhausted or things that are making my hormones out of whack. But we have to focus on our values. We have to understand what our values are first. And then we have to make sure our values and our priorities match. So if you take away anything from today's episode, I want you to take away that. Create your list of values. It doesn't have to be many, it could be 3 to 5 values, and make sure all your decisions revolve around those values. And remember, the goal isn't to fill every minute of every day to make you feel like you're successful. The goal is to fill your life with what matters most to you.